Welcome back to another video. Today I'm up a little bit over $9,000 on the day, trading one simple trade on AMD. In this video, I'm going to show you the full strategy, live session, and broker executions to help you understand exactly how I trade. If this video helps you and you want more of these videos, make sure to leave it a like. And remember, I've been trading for 7 years. Trading is not a get-rich-quick business, but in this video, I want to show you the exact setup, strategies, and execution that help me achieve these results. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Today is currently February the 9th, and just a couple trades I want to show you guys the pre-market prep for in terms of what we're coming into the day with. So SPY kind of opening up near the top of this range here. So what I would like to see SPY do typically for myself is break above this 690 level. If we can break above the 690 level within the first 5 minutes, that does look good for a potential move back to the upside. QQQ, same thing. If we can break above 608s, that looks good for a move to the upside. If we break below 605s, then I'm going to be a little bit more cautious coming into the market just because it'll show the market's a little bit weaker. Apple, definitely a little bit stronger just because it's had a very, very aggressive move. Consolidated for the last couple of days. I would like it above 278.65s if I'm looking to go long on Apple today. Tesla does look good above previous day high, so 414.52. Tesla needs to hold this pre-market low that it's currently at. This is a previous day pivot level as well, 408.76. If Tesla can hold here, this one does have room back to the upside. However, if it breaks as well, once again, we'll be a little bit more cautious. A lot of these names look good for the long side move, but if they do end up breaking, then I'm going to be more cautious on these names. Same with AMD, right? Previous day high break and retest. This looks good on AMD. If it breaks below this 206 level, then once again, I'm going to preach caution. NVIDIA above 185.22s, and then SNDK. This one's kind of consolidating. I'm going to keep an eye out on SNDK, but this one's consolidating so far. So same with MU. So SNDK and MU are consolidating. I'm going to keep an eye out on them, but they're not something that I'm really looking at right into the market open. Within the first 5 minutes, if there's any good price action or anything that's showing relative strength, I'll look to trade that. If there's not, then I'm just going to be a little bit more patient for today. So let's wait for the market to open up. Today, the key thing is to have patience, discipline, and make sure that we only trade one repeatable system. Yeah, coming into today, kind of like Jack talked about, so QQQ, right? QQQ and SPY kind of opening up near the top of the range. I like Tesla above previous day high or this essentially 212 area. And then of course, I'd like it to hold pre-market lows here as well. AMD looks good, but only above previous day high. I would take AMD. NVIDIA right into the open, potentially within the first 5 minutes. We'll see what type of price action NVIDIA gives, but NVIDIA above 185.22s, which it's currently above right now, does look good. SNDK and MU, those ones are a little bit more consolidative, not really too interested in that. And then for the rest of the market, we'll really see within the first 5 minutes if anything shows too much strength or weakness. All right, NVIDIA so far, this one pushing up 185.22s. This is the key level on NVIDIA. It needs to break above this level and hold. And then SPY is in the middle of the range. SPY does have room down into 680.649s if it wants to come back down there as well. All right, Q's trying to hold up. NVIDIA bouncing so far a little bit off that 185.22s. Let's keep an eye out on NVIDIA so far. This one, the strongest in the overall market. Yeah, if I was interested in NVIDIA, I'm looking for that pullback now. I'm going to be looking at the 187.50 calls on NVIDIA. That's going to be the 187.50 calls if NVIDIA does want to pull back. NVIDIA, definitely the strongest name so far. We'll keep an eye out for a pullback on NVIDIA. Once again, that's going to be the 187.50 calls I'm looking at, the 187.50 calls. This one pushing up into high of day now on NVIDIA. I'm going to keep an eye out on the 187.50 calls on NVIDIA here. I need to see strong price action. All right, NVIDIA closing near high of day here. This one, buyers just stepping in very, very aggressively here on NVIDIA. No entry just yet for myself. This one very, very strong so far. AMD above previous day high does look good. So if AMD wants to break above 209.37s, keep an eye out on AMD 209.37s. NVIDIA just such a strong push up now. We'll keep an eye out on a pullback on NVIDIA. AMD, keep an eye out on AMD above previous day high. Previous day high retest on AMD potentially in play. Yeah, look at the amount of buyers stepping in. These contracts almost $5.30. There were $3.95 on that entry that we were trying to get. Right now on NVIDIA, I'm going to be looking at the 5-minute high retest, the 5-minute high retest plus the previous day high retest. That's going to be 187.46. You can also look for AMD retest of previous day high. It's kind of doing an immediate retest. You'd like to see some sort of displacement on AMD. But QQ, you can see buyers stepping in very aggressively on Qs. All right, for me right now, two things I'm looking at. AMD retest a previous day high. So AMD 209.37 retest or NVIDIA retest of this 5-minute high, which is 187.46. Let's keep an eye out on both of these names. Let's see which one wants to retest. Let's see if AMD comes back for the retest level or Nvidia. So far, Q's pushing up pretty aggressively. AMD still keeping an eye out on this previous day high retest, 209.37 retest on AMD. QQQ once again still pushing up pretty aggressively. SPY, this one has room up into 692.29s, which is your previous day high, along with QQQ previous day high 611.44s. Yeah, keep an eye out on this AMD pullback into previous day high. Potentially, we can keep an eye out on this AMD pullback into previous day high for a move back up into high of day if buyers step up. I'm going to keep an eye out on the 210 calls here on AMD. That's going to be the 210 calls on AMD. Let's see if buyers step in right off this previous day high here on AMD. Keep an eye out on this pullback. Previous day high on AMD. All right, I just bought the 210 calls here on AMD. The 210 calls on AMD, looking for a move back up into high of day and continuation. That's going to be the 210 calls on AMD, previous day high retest. Tesla also just shot back above your previous 5-minute high. We can look for a retest of the 5-minute high on Tesla potentially here as well. And then Nvidia, this one buyers still stepping up aggressively. This one just very, very strong on Nvidia today. No sellers basically on Nvidia today. First targets on AMD here is previous highs here. All right, here's your previous highs on AMD. Look to scale some here at your previous day highs here on AMD, previous highs. All right, took some off here on AMD. Nice buyer stepping in on AMD. Took some off here on AMD. All right, nice buyers stepped in on AMD there. Took majority off on AMD. Only holding trailer positions for myself. Big buyers on AMD. I'm out about 85% on that position right there on AMD. Now I'm just going to look for continuation on the trailers, out about 85% of my position there on AMD. Going to look for continuation on my trailers. Was anyone able to get into AMD there? Was anyone able to get into AMD or potentially even Nvidia if you were able to get into Nvidia? AMD, both AMD. Killer call on AMD, both. Yeah, AMD, that was a nice trade right into the open there. Nice trade on AMD right into the open there. Nice. We'll hold the trailers for continuation as long as it holds above essentially this one candle rule, which is 940 candle. That's the candle it needs to hold above for me for continuation, that 940 candle, right? As long as AMD holds above that, I'm going to continue to hold. QQQ is coming back down. Yep, AMD, you can see buyers. Right, we just want to see that continuation and trend here on AMD. This one back at high of day. We just want the candle closure back above high of day now. You look at context, like if you want to buy the 5-minute setup, let's say we have a lot of different setups, right? We have the 5-minute setup, we have the previous day high setup, we have the one candle rule setup. On AMD today, it made sense to buy the previous day high retest for continuation because of the context of the higher time frame and Nvidia and the overall market with SPY and QQQ. That might be a little bit more confusing to understand, but that's why you're kind of in the accelerator, right? To understand, like me and Jack, what we try to do is every pre-market, we try to give you guys the game plan. The game plan today on AMD, if you go back to the pre-market session, right, was essentially just that previous day high retest. That was always the game plan on AMD, right? I would say that's a textbook break and retest today with the previous day high retest textbook. And now you can see this one's pushing up super aggressively on AMD now, almost up into 214s, 215s coming in here on AMD, right? So big buyers stepping in. This one now from entry, technically, almost a 5-hour trade. So just a solid trade here on AMD. All right, so I just want to show you guys a quick breakdown on exactly what I did today to capture my AMD trade. This was an $8.2 thousand day, but let's go through this. So essentially coming into the day, if we actually get rid of all of this, what I was looking for was on the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, we can see AMD does have a gap here, right? So because of this, what I marked out was this previous day high, because I know if we break above this previous day high, the next level or area of liquidity should be 218.68. After this 218.68 area, the only next area of liquidity will be 234s because once again, we have a big gap. So coming into the 1-minute time frame, what I was looking for was essentially just the break and retest of the previous day high, looking for continuation. And you guys heard me say that during the pre-market session as well. Once we actually play this trade out here a little bit, you can see some sellers actually did step up on AMD, but what happened was buyers then ended up stepping up. When these buyers ended up stepping up, this is where I was looking for the retest. Now on this first pullback, this was a little bit too aggressive for me because there was no displacement on this entry. So I was waiting for the displacement retest with strong price action. Once I saw some buyers stepping in, as we can see if I play this out just a little bit more, once I saw buyers stepping in right off this level today, I did have a little bit more of an aggressive entry. I entered into this trade looking for that move back to the upside because once again, this is the previous day high break and retest strategy, a very simple strategy that I talk about on my channel within Scarface Trades a lot as well if you want to check that out after. And you can see this this one just had nice continuation. I ended up scaling a lot just out of this first pop just because Nvidia was already at resistance and QQQ was pushing aggressively near resistance as well. And then I was able to ride the trailers, and once again, you guys see I'm still holding the trailers, and this one is still pushing back to the upside very, very nicely. We'll see if we can actually end up hitting our 218.68 level later on in the day, but I'm still holding this trade for that continuation push into 218.68, which we'll see tomorrow if this ended up hitting that 218.68 or coming back down. But for today, this was a fantastic day. So if you got value from this video, make sure to leave it a like. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for daily trade breakdowns, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new trade.